should we go into the Satan Club and then Tuskegee Airmen? It's not funny. And the Satan Club thing is just real quick because a federal judge ruled this week that a Pennsylvania school district must allow a Satanist club to meet, citing the group's First Amendment right. So, we were just talking about the Supreme Court with affirmative action and stuff like that. So, U.S. District Judge John M. Gallagher wrote in a Monday filing that the Sucon Valley School District violated the after-school Satan program's free speech privileges when it rescinded its agreement to let the group meet on school grounds. The club, which is sponsored by the Satanic Temple, had its official approval revoked earlier this year after this promotional flyers caused a stir in the Lehigh Valley community. The National ACLU, the ACLU of Pennsylvania, and the DeChert, DECHERT LLP, subsequently sued the district on behalf of the Satanic Temple in March. Here, although the Satanic Temple Incorporated objectors may challenge the sanctity of this controversial name organization, the sanctity of the First Amendment's protection must prevail. Gallagher, however, also acknowledged Superintendent Jamie Velocity's inevitable position when faced with shooting threat in response to the club on Friday. So,
inevitable. You're talking about
inevitable, yes.
The point on it is this: there's law, and everything in law tends to be a two-edged sword. It can swing both ways. So if you will allow Christians, Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus to be respected in what they want to do, you have to allow everyone to have that respect. If you don't, then none should. And that's one of the things, too, that's going on with the other cult in there, the one that has a rainbow flag that a lot of people don't like. It's one thing to teach about something. It's another thing to try and advocate. Now, when you have a club, it's not mandatory for anybody to attend the club. It becomes objectionable when the student has no choice or can't opt out of something, or in the process of opting out would ostracize him or herself. That's where the problem comes in.
Right. And real quick, and then I'm going to go to no tax. It says the Satanic Temple does not worship Satan as an incarnation of evil, but instead uses a controversial symbol as a representation of independent thought and free will. The group made headlines last week as the largest ever gathering of adherents prepared to descend on Boston of Satan Con 2023. And honestly, I do side with this judge saying this falls under First Amendment freedom of speech, freedom of press or whatever, because you do have this administration that love to promote a specific cult in society and want to banish other groups, whether it's Christians, conservative, or anything that's pro-Trump. See, the pro-Trump groups they're trying to ban that. So you cannot sit up here and say we can have this group, but we can't have that. You see what I'm saying? Everybody is entitled. And it also says when a school district open up its facility, it cannot discriminate based on religious beliefs. This ruling reinforces the principle of equal access and ensures that all views have a fair opportunity to be expressed. So, I mean, as a parent, and my kid went to school and they had a satanic club, I wouldn't want my child joining it, even if they're just, being curious. But at the same time, I can't sit up here and say, I don't want this in this public school because I don't believe in it, because that's not fair. Now, if it was a Catholic school or something, hell yeah, because I'm paying and it's my way or the highway. But public school, public funding, you cannot discriminate. I want to go to no tax.
Hi,
and then
Dana.
back to Adam. Hey.
Hi, Judge, and everybody in the room. Hope everybody is well. I actually don't have anything to say about the clubs and the schools. You know, it is, they have a First Amendment right. They can gather if they want to. So it is what it is. But I did want to say that the judge pointed out in the other conversation something very important. If we approach things differently, as opposed to race, if we approach things economically, then we might be a little bit further along. And it's a very sort of federalist way of thinking. Um, uh, but it's where we are in this country, Black folks, Black Americans. So if we start talking numbers as opposed to race, we may be able to get our numbers up economically. And I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Adam, and then we're gonna
Very
go.
good,
Okay.
ma'am. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, as far as a satanic club in school, I don't know. Like, my tax dollars go to funding these schools, like you said, Dana. Uh, I wouldn't want any sort of religion pushed in school. Religious clubs in the school being funded by taxpayer dollars, no. If they want to hand out pamphlets and then do an after school thing, that's fine. But as far as I come from a Muslim Christian background, and I wouldn't want any religion pushed on my child, whether it's satanic, rainbow religion, which is a cult, essentially, or any of that. As far as the books being banned in Florida, it's very. If you saw the books, I saw some of it, and it's disgusting. It's improper. When I was in seventh grade here in Florida, uh, my parents had to sign a permission form for me to take sex ed in seventh grade. So, and what they taught was basic things: safe sex, contraception, STDs, how to avoid them, and that was it. Nothing else sexually instructive. No dildos butt plugs being handed out to little girls. None of that nonsense. It was just education. And if it's education based, that's all it should be in school, because that's what our tax dollars are going toward. My tax dollars aren't going toward to teach my child to grow up to be a Satanist or a transgender or any of that. That's ideological. That should be taught at home, bottom line. And I'll land my plane there. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Brother, brother
Good
Ace.
observation. Good observations.
So, hi, hello everyone, Judge and also Dana. So to go on the religious part, the at least the case I'm thinking about is the Supreme Court, where the guy was kneeling down and requesting people to pray, and that's where this new Supreme Court, and then I think in retribution, the Satanists came up, at least the history that I'm aware of, the short history. So I think it's more not just being taught, but also just using public resources to host those type of religious gatherings and such. So it's not necessarily, at least I'm not aware of actual classes and such, but it's just also you have to think about using the public resources. So whether it be a football stadium or whatever for these religious events, which I mean, if they're going to say the First Amendment for the kneeling down and praying and such in the middle of the field during a football game, then that allows for anything else. So I don't think it's necessarily our tax dollars being spent on actual classes. It's more just generally using of public resources, which I mean I don't approve, but they open up the gates with the kneeling down and in the middle of the field and such like that. So they opened up a can of worms there, and that's I'll end on that.
Okay.
Those are
Taski.
good points, by the way. Very good points. But that's probably where the main objection to the LGBTQ cult comes in. They're actually spending tax dollars on fostering this in the public schools. They have the public school teachers teaching it, and they're not trying to just teach about it, they're trying to advocate it, which is where it gets lost.
Mary, and then we could swing into Tuskegee Airmen. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, thank you. It's Miriam. You probably can't see the rest.
Miriam. Yeah,
Yeah,
Miriam.
but that's fine. I'm in agreement with the gentleman that came before me. It's definitely more of a agenda, grooming agenda that is going on within our schools, and then they're trying to use funding to promote some of the things that are going on there, as well as religion should be taught at home and out, not in school, because we understand there's too many different types. And then when you get into something like Satanism and things of that nature, it's a club. Um, if it's not a chess club or a sports club or a band club, it should not be on the property for children, because Satanism is a form of religion, no matter how they try to spin it. So no, that should not be allowed, just like there should not be drag queens trying to read to our children in school. There should not be people passing um, um, these propagandists, gay propaganda, let using their legislation to force their way into pedophiling our children and their space and their understanding. Because as Adam was stating, sex education is done at an appropriate age, and it's ABC, just to know your normal functions. They should not be pressured and forced into um, being confused about who they are as a young girl or a young boy. And even if they have a moment of confusion, should no one have the right to have influence over anyone's child. So yes, I'm strongly for that. And as far as what the other gentleman said, with the knee, taking a knee or whatever, that's not praying, that's not religion, that's protest, and that's self-expression. That's just like you standing, stretching your arms. I'll yield my time.
Elder.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to ask the judge a question here. Judge, I appreciate you. You bring a lot to the table, sir. Um, First, I want to say I don't know how we got here as far as having this trans stuff pushed in our schools. It makes no sense. I mean, it's hard enough being a child today as it is coping with what is
Hello?
out here in the schools. Hello, can you hear me?
Is anybody there?
Yeah, Judge, can you hear? Can
I
anybody
hear
hear
you.
me?
I hear you.
I hear you, Dana. I
We
hear
can hear
Elder,
you,
but I don't
Judge.
think Judge hears Elder.
Oh, you don't hear Elder, Judge? Because everyone can hear you, Judge. Or you don't, or do you
I
only hear
hear
me?
I don't hear elder, but I hear others.
Oh,
So
Do you want me to go ahead and drop back down
drop down and
and
come
come
back
up?
up. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you hear me, Judge?
yes, I hear you
All right,
loudly and
Adam. Do
clearly.
you hear Adam? Adam, say something.
Yeah, you hear me, Judge?
I hear Adam.
All right.
Mary, Miriam,
I'm here. Yes.
I hear Miss Miriam.
Black majority.
Yes, yes, I'm here.
I hear black majority.
Okay, so then it's Elder. Oh, there was an error adding Patriot as a who the hell is Patriot? Okay, Elder. Okay, so something's going on. Adam, you wanted to say something, and then I want to move into the Tuskegee. Go ahead,
Yeah, I
Adam.
just wanted to hit on the kneeling. I supported their kneeling. It doesn't mean I agreed with it during the national anthem. I supported their right to do so, but I didn't agree with it. That was the only thing. I understand taking a knee, fallen soldier sort of thing, and that's okay. That's respectable. But national anthem is I'm an immigrant, and I respect our national anthem. I respect our flag. I respect our country. I don't respect our government. That's one thing. I'll land there.
I
If
agree with you
if
with that.
if I may address Mr. Adam, Well, that's the difference because you are immigrant, and sometimes you all do not understand in which some of the things that plague us, especially historically, and ancestrally in this country. Taking a knee, he was in protest to the falling and the many men, black men, women, and children who were murdered unjustly by the hands of law and or white supremacy. So that was a proper time for him to take a knee. He should not have lost his career. It should not have been blown out of order. It should have just moved along. And we fought and died for those stars and stripes. And we are the ones because reason why that banner swings in the air and the reason why the song was even written, sir. So thank you.
Yes, I
Are we
didn't say,
talking about Colin Kaepernick? You're referring to Colin Kaepernick taking a knee because
Him and
and I
other
did say that
athletes.
fallen soldier thing, didn't I? I didn't. You're misrepresenting me here. I've been here since the age of 4, and I'm 43, so I think I'm American as fuck. I do. I said I do respect their right to do so because of the fallen soldier thing, but the carrying on of it and just some of the aspects of it, I did not agree with. But I did support his right to do so. If you heard me right, thank you.
I did hear you right. Did you hear me right? And I was saying that the others blew it out of proportion. It was the owners and it was the other people who are in line and step with ruling class who had something to hiss about it and say about it. And yes, you may
Exactly.
be have born here, but still people have different aspects and different understanding of what we have went through as a people. So no one's
I
gonna,
agree with you and his
downplay it.
right to do so, and
Thank
I
you.
respect it.
Yeah, and I
I,
respect your point of view too,
thank
but
you.
don't dump on mine. All
Okay,
right.
um,
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. But you were just saying
well,
I'm an
let me let
immigrant.
me
I've
let
been
me
here
dump.
since the age of 4, so
Well,
I went to preschool eating graham crackers
I
and grape
said
juice.
most immigrants, sir. I
well,
didn't
let
Most
say
me
you
immigrants.
was
wait. Let
born
me
Okay,
here
finish
okay.
for a
here
minute.
five minutes
Let
ago.
me
I said
add a
most.
Wait, what?
historical. Let me add a historical perspective. After Fort Sumter was fired on in 1861, about a third of the country got up and walked out. 1966, 67, 68, 69, when the NOM was going on, routinely you'd have affairs at the LA Coliseum with 90,000 people there, and most of them wouldn't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, well, not the Pledge of Allegiance, Star Spangled Banner out of protest against the NOM. So it's nothing new, Kaepernick taking a knee. That's been going on in and out for one reason or another in this entire country's history. Um, the pledge allegiance to the flag was not adopted until fairly recently, and that thing in it that says "one nation under God" was not added until after World War II. So we got a lot going on here that we might not get so worked up about if we knew the historical perspective. I just throw that in.
And real quick, um, I'm about to dump on Mary and Adam's comment because a part of me is like F Colin Kaepernick because I understand why he did it and he didn't get no media attention when he was doing it. He was doing it long before that media attention, but he is a race hustler. Um, considering what transpired after that, he's a race hustler, and I wouldn't be surprised if if he was in on it from the beginning, because he probably started out being very genuine. And then somebody got in his ear, maybe one of the Black Lives Matter activists or those type of people was like, hey, we're going to start putting the media on what you're doing, because it's NFL season and we're going to have one media outlet highlight you and then the others are going to follow, right? And then he went right along with it because you look at him now, he wasn't serious about wanting to get back into the NFL. It's all about him trying to find his identity, throwing his adoptive parents under the bus. You still get multi-million-dollar Nike contract with China, but then you want to talk about the freedom of Black people here in America. So he's a hypocrite at the end of the day, and he put on too much of a spectacle, when he was trying to work out for the teams. And down in Atlanta, you supposed to be at the dome, but then you want to say I'm going on in the ghetto to a Black school and practice on the field, doing all this extra shit. Your corny BET program or Netflix program. I'm not in the biz. I don't care about him trying to find his identity because he's mixed and he was raised by white people, and then you trying to make it a us problem. So Colin Kaepernick is full of shit.
Well, wow. Okay.
Other athletes, I didn't even name him, so someone else.
Well, yeah,
named him.
well, yeah, I think because he just became the face and you know what I'm saying, and was pushing it. But you're right, it was other athletes, but I would think that their taking the knee was more sincere, than Colin Kaepernick when we look at the end result. Now, but I will give him this credit. He did start some localized grassroots organizations that does help people, in local communities. I want to go to trans and transis, and then black to black majority, and then I'm gonna bring up black. What is this? Black first, and then we'll dip into the Tuskegee conversation. Trans, you can unmute. You wanted to say something? Trans, you can unmute. Transis, you can unmute. All right, we give her a minute.
Hey, Dana.
Huh?
I wanted to say Jaylen Brown was a great person in that respect compared to Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was on his way down in his NFL career, but Jaylen Brown, he's representing and he's holding strong and doing good things. God bless him.
Yeah. Okay, black majority. I don't know what's going on with Transis. She went on mute. But go ahead, Black.
Okay, man, for all the immigrants in the room, I want to read the part of the national anthem that was removed. No refuge could save the hireling and the slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave, and the star-spangled banner in triumph doth wave. Our relationship, Black American relationship, the descendants of those enslaved in this country, is eternal. And immigrants should not speak upon our relationship with this country in any area of our relationship in this country. Your opinion has no value.
All right. I want to go to Black first, then Elder. And guys, when you come up, just raise your hand when you want to speak, so that way I won't lose the order of who raised hand first. So go ahead, Black first. You can unmute.
Yes, thank you, Miss Dana, and to a person I admire the most. I had the privilege of meeting Judge Joe Brown, and back in Middletown, Ohio, with Don Cheatham, and he and I spoke very briefly, and he impressed me so very, very much. And I want to say, Judge, you just keep doing.
Thank you.
You just keep doing what you're doing. I've been following you ever since. I think that was in 2004 when you came. You and Brother Don Cheatham came together. And I want to encourage you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. I love your mind. You keep me reading. Keep me studying, because a lot of times, we look at the facade. We know you've been on television, all those things, but Judge has a keen mind, and I think, you know, as educators and students and lifelong learners, we can aspire to have a mind like his. And I just wanted to piggyback on what the previous caller said, and about the national anthem. People need to read the second stanza of the national anthem. I was in the military. I am a veteran. I don't stand for the national anthem at all. Because when I learned the second stanza and what it meant, see, when they were bombing Fort Sumner in 1861, John P. Key was sitting there writing when black men were dying. And until they remove the 3/5 of a human from the Constitution, there's no immigrants that have anything to say. And I'm not throwing water or fire on immigrants. But before you speak, and I always tell immigrants this: study the history and don't believe the propaganda and all the BS that you're hearing. If you study the history, you will know who built this country, who set the foundation for this country. Because without us, there would be no culture, there would be no science, there would be a whole lot of stuff. So I'm gonna land my plane there. And again, Judge, man, I'm praying for you. I'm pulling for you, man. I'm in North Carolina, but if I have to come to Tennessee and sit there with you, I will, because you're just that man. Thank you so very much. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, sir. Please come on. We can use you. By the way, again, the constitutional provision that speaks on this 3/5 thing, everybody should read it. It's not even a long sentence. And well, I won't belabor the point. For motivational purposes, it's good that we think that, but that's not quite actually what it says.
I want to go to Elder.
But anyway, we need to read the Constitution. You can get them for free in most malls, and it'll take you about 15 minutes to read the Constitution and the Constitution, and maybe 5-10 minutes to read the Bill of Rights.
But isn't the amendments under the Bill of Rights or the Constitution? The amendments. There's a lot of amendments.
Yeah, but the first 10 that are the fundamental ones is set up your rights as a citizen.
Okay.
That's not long. That's the Bill of Rights. They were ratified in 1791, and the Constitution was ratified in 1789 separately. So it takes you about 15 minutes to read the Constitution, and another 5 to read, or 10 to read the Bill of Rights. You should do that, and it's free. You can get it or Google it, or just Google United States Constitution. Take you 15-20 minutes to read it, and it'll be very enlightening.
I want to go to Elder, and then I want us to go to the Tuskegee Airmen conversation. Go ahead, Elder.
Yes, it's an honor to speak with you, Judge. Sorry I got disconnected there. You're a man after my own heart. You speak the truth no matter what. Don't sugarcoat it. I served in the military, 10th Special Forces Group. I also had an uncle that served in the Tuskegee Airmen, a great uncle. I had a 6th great grandfather that served in the Revolutionary War. He became the second black man to own land in the state of Ohio. What's a major concern with me today is schools where they become indoctrination and not a place about learning. And that kind of scares me, especially with how they're pushing trans right now. Kids have a hard enough time as it is in day to day life without pushing all this garbage on small minds. And the other thing that kind of gets to me is this immigration is being unchecked. It's like our black communities are being targeted. And we have a lot of immigrants. I mean, I don't personally, I mean, any man that wants to try to do better, you can't fault that. I fault the politicians in Washington for allowing it to happen. Now, I was wondering if you had any thoughts to that. Thank you. Appreciate
for clarity, Elder, are you talking about illegal immigrants? Because there's a difference between an immigrant who went the proper legal route.
If you look at what's going on, illegal immigrants is a problem, but also legal immigration is a problem. Because when they come in, you're having black Americans train them, and then those black Americans are given the pink slip. You know what I'm saying? They're taking jobs that you have black Americans working. And I don't think that's right. We have to look into this.
I agree with you, and it's only to a certain extent, because you know what the difference is, though. When you have immigrants that come here, you do know that they work as a group collectively, which is why they are able to advance, and they study our government to take advantage of the benefits that you could get as a citizen via the government. But they work as a group, as opposed to black people today. We're not working as a collective, which is we work on an individual mindset, which is why we're not getting ahead. But I don't.
Well, that's not always true across the board. I am very, 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 very active in my community. I'm at every city council meeting. I'm at every school board meeting. But you're right. They take advantage of the resources that we have here in America, and a lot of the resources don't even reach our black communities anymore.
Well, why are we not taking advantage of the resources?
Well, Did you vote in the last OMB for as having Black Americans categorized as Black Americans and no longer African
No,
Americans?
that's not why. That has no voting has nothing to do with it. We're not.
It does.
Discrimination.
It
We're
does.
not. No, no, it
No,
doesn't.
no, no.
We're not operating. One second. Take voting off the table because I'm from New
It
Jersey. It's very
it's
multicultural.
not about OMB.
Wait,
Has nothing
let
to
me
do
give
with
you.
voting, though.
Let me give you a quick
Lord have
example.
mercy.
Let me give you a quick example when I say that immigrants work as a collective. Where I come from in New Jersey, tri-state area, that part of northern New Jersey is very diverse. A lot of different immigrants from a lot of different backgrounds. What they're doing has nothing to do with voting. It has to do with economics. It has to do with being business owners. People will come together. They corner a market in construction. When you corner a market, when you start a business in construction and you help people that are coming over here legally and you get them in construction, you corner that market in your local area and you hire your own people. You build up communities around your people because that's what we have in New Jersey, particularly in North, very segregated even to this day. But they build up communities, they open up businesses, they open up banks. When you're building up economically, you control that voting block. You're putting money into the politicians that you want into office. That's when the voting comes in. But the key thing is working as a collective. They cornered, for instance, the construction, they cornered the redevelopment construction market in North New Jersey to the point to where now when it comes to illegals, when you see a whole bunch of Mexicans, they used to stand outside and they hop on somebody's truck, you no longer see that because they're business owners who are immigrants, who are citizens. They said, don't stand outside and go on random trucks. We're going to hire you for you to work for us because because we're getting so many contracts, not just in North, it's spreading to other counties. So it starts small and they're expanding, but they're keeping it in-house. Gaining that type of power, gaining that economic leverage, you control your voting block. You control laws that are being passed locally that's going to benefit you. Black people are not doing that. So all that, and I get what you're saying, voting and the OBL with the race base, whatever, whatever. Their name, these immigrants, they don't have a special box for them. They're not thinking about that. You got to come here with the mindset of how can I get grants to open up a business? How can I corner the market where I live at, hire my own people, and build up power? See, we're not doing that. Fuck a race box. Build
Okay,
up that economic power. But go ahead.
this is what I'm saying. When I said about voting, I was talking about for the OMB, as far as classifying us as Black Americans. Yes, it does have something to do with it. All through our history, we've been classified by who? By government. We never been had a chance to say what we wanted to be. If we wanted to be Black Americans, which we've had our ancestors shed blood for the America, they built America, then why can't we be classified as Black Americans? African American, everything we've been called to the ages, is gonna fall up underneath that. Now, when that happens, then yes, resources will go to our communities. We will have a classification that we chose, that we picked. Right now, a second generation African can sit there and say, I'm African American. Okay, so yes, this is the first time we've had a say. And yes, you're right also about what you said, that we had to
But
be more involved in our politics.
what I disagree with you, you're working backwards because you're focused on race base and you're not focused where we are not focused on economic resources. You don't have to wait to be categorized with your own special category
It's not
to take
working
advantage
backwards.
of the
It's what
economic
came out.
empowerment.
This
It
is
has nothing
this
to
is
do.
what came out.
This is what I'm telling
No,
you.
you're
This is
not
what I'm telling you.
understanding.
No, I
The
understand
vote had just
perfectly.
happened,
Fuck the vote.
and you say
Fuck
it's
the vote.
working.
Listen, sir,
Well, then you know
sir,
something. Then there's
sir,
nothing to be said.
No. I need for you to be quiet. Because what I'm trying to say here, you're working backwards. Fuck a vote on a box right now because we've been here since what? Since what? Since how many goddamn centuries? We had so many different boxes for us to check off with so many different categories. Fuck a box. Because how in the hell can a fucking immigrant legally come here legally from whatever country? Don't say South America or even fucking Dominican or even a country in Africa. As soon as they touch down, they're linking up with their people that's already set up shop here and they putting them on. They're not checking off an immigrant box. They're using our system. No, they're understanding how do you get ahead economically. Start with the economics. Stop checking off a box because we always had been specified in different type of boxes. We don't have time to vote on a box. What you need to do is learn how to get access to grants. Learn how to collectively work together. We don't work together. So even if we have that box, sir, if we don't learn how to collectively build up our communities, checking off that box specifically for us is not going to help.
I'd like for the judge to weigh in on this because the census is important.
Okay, go ahead, Judge.
The census is important.
Okay, if you ask me, my comment is this. I'll first preface it by saying that my grandmother, well, she's dead now, been dead a long time. She was a Choctaw, so I am part Indian, part Native American. I recall vividly back in the 60s when we decided we were going to call ourselves Black, and we did that. There was a brief period in there where we called ourselves Afro-Americans, and then we jumped back to Black. So those were our choices. Nobody picked those terms for us because popularly we were referred to as Negroes after being referred to as colored before that. And before that, Negroes, which was the term the Spanish used when they imported cargoes of us from Africa. And Sir Francis Drake and Sir Walter Raleigh, favorites of Queen Elizabeth, decided that they were going to engage in their sanctioned piracy, steal these slave ships, and bring them in various places in the Spanish Empire and in the English Empire and sell off these loads of Negroes. But that aside, I will say this. One of our problems is that, well, I'll make an analogy. Let's use cars. There are Cadillacs, Fords, Chevrolets, Pontiacs, BMWs, Mercedes, Rolls Royces. There are Range Rovers, and they're all different. They're common because they are automobiles, but we are like those various brands of automobiles, except we classify ourselves because we ordered or found one on the dealer floor that was black or brown or tan or taupe, and we all self-identify not off of the brands we are, but off of the paint scheme that we have come equipped with. And that's one of the problems because that's how we identify as people. It's the most obvious thing. So it is what it is on that. But we do need unity. But the problem with unity is we have our pimps, our hustlers, our simps who pimp the revolution, pimp the movement, do all kinds of negative things that they can get away with because they take advantage of this color scheme. Now, we can't unify with them because it'll get you killed or put in jail or sold out or broke or hustled or getting conned. And that's the problem we have because back in the 60s when we were doing this, since then, we found out a lot of people in the organizations that we trusted were trying to help, were trying to advance, were part of, were nothing but snitches, informants, or sworn agents of somebody that was trying to destroy us. Now, those are cautions and those are realities. And the other thing is, soon this country will not have a racial majority. everybody will be a minority, and there will be various and sundry alliances that are formed and reformed, and nobody's going to prosper if they don't know how to deal with that. And the other point, the whole country needs to learn that the rest of the world plays politics based on convenience and gain. You do not vote for somebody just because you like them. You ask a question: what am I getting? You do not vote for someone because you perceive you have loyalty to a party, because that will get you nowhere. And everybody else that is prospered in this country, they know good and well that you can change parties, and you should not be stuck with one because your goal is advantage. Now, if you consistently vote for one party no matter what they do, and you consistently vote for another party no matter against the party, no matter what they do, neither party has an incentive to do a damn thing for you, because they'll either get your vote, don't care what, or they won't get your vote, don't care what. So we wind up helping everybody else by being loyal to a party, or disloyal, or unable to vote for another party, in winding up being a catalyst. A catalyst is something you introduce to a chemical reaction that allows the reaction to occur, but it itself is not used in the reaction and winds up being discarded. So perhaps we need to stop being a catalyst and get into being part of the mix.
Your phone was going down a little bit, but we did hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me.
I hear you.
Okay, good. I see. Was it Big Chief? But real quick, I want to finish up with Elder. Then I'll go into Big Chief, Mary, and then Francis. Mr. Elder said that you always go to your councilman meetings and you're active politically where you live at, as we all should be. But when I sit up here and I'm making a distinction between Black America and immigrants, right, who come here legally, when you go to your local political meetings, councilmen, whatever have you, how many other Black people in your community are there with you as a collective? Do you represent an organization that you could go in and say, this is our agenda? I'm speaking on behalf of my district where I have, let's just say, 10,000 signatures and we are voting on this. When you go into these councilman meetings that they have, town hall meetings, who are you going in there with? See, we don't have a tribe, whether they're physically there or whether you could say this on paper, my community, what do you call it? My neighborhood watch. Here go the emails with the signatures, and this is our agenda. See, that is the difference between Black Americans and the immigrants, because when they go to City Hall, they're going as a collective, whether it's bodies or on paper. That's what I'm talking about. So it's like, okay, whether they're checking off a box or not, their representation locally is showing up collectively as one specific block of people. Go ahead, Mr. Elder, then I'm gonna go to Big Chief.
No, I mean, two things can be true at one time. I don't never paint nothing with a white brush because it's not true in every area. So yes, we have a lot of Black Americans to turn out at our council meetings. We just had the first Black American mayor elected, as mayor in the history of this town. So yes, I mean, the way I look at a lot of the large cities, it seems like it's too late because there's so much corruption and everything now. That's why I hope the judge becomes the mayor of Memphis. You know what I'm saying? There's hope out there. But it's like you said, we got to band together. And yes, we can do multiple things at multiple times. The OMB just came out this time, like I said, because I guess it was the time for it to come out and we had a say. So why not take advantage of that? I did. But plus, I understand what you're saying, and I'm trying to do that also. And good space, and I'll land with that. And I'm sorry if I raised my voice or something like that to you. It was meant to be like that. I have love for you, okay?
Yeah, no problem. That's fine. It's good to
Okay.
raise voices. So,
Yeah. It's passion. That's all, baby.
yeah, exactly. But and listen, I don't know what your age, but if you are, you're probably from a different generation of time to where
60 years old.
Okay, so it's normal for you to go to town hall meetings, local councilmen. That's because you know that's what you're supposed to do. The problem is, I would say my generation and younger, they're not doing that. They don't know the importance of that. But outsiders that are coming in, they know that. And
Yeah.
so I'm just trying to make the distinction of their focus is to get ahead, and they know they could do it quicker and easier in America than their own country, especially if they stick together.
Correct.
And that is the downfall right now of Black America if we don't understand that and just focus on us collectively getting ahead and not trusting this government, but using the government to our benefit. So let me
we have to set the example. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And it does have to start somewhere, but honestly, we're running out of time.
Yes.
So I want to go to Big Chief, and then I'm gonna swing back to Miriam and then Francis. Go ahead, Big Chief.
Hello, appreciate the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Salute to Sister Donna, Brother Judge Joe Brown. You know what I'm saying? Glad to have another conversation with y'all because y'all always hold some interesting topics. Yes, sir.
Hello?
It's kind of interesting when we were talking about. Can you hear me?
Okay, Judge, we can hear you, but you probably
I'll drop down
and
come back up.
Can you hear me, Judge?
I hear you fine.
Okay, you can't. But you didn't hear Big Chief?
No, I did not.
All right, wait a minute. Let me bring him back up. Let me see.
By the way, while you're bringing him back up, everybody in this country is an immigrant. I said my grandmother's a Choctaw, so that makes me Indian. Our ancestors immigrated here. We did not originate on the North American continent. Everybody is an immigrant. It's just the circumstances you come here under. You get more recent.
My ancestors were enslaved immigrants.
Yeah, well, we get even to there. And some of the slaves were brought to Jamaica, brought to the continental American colony of Britain. Some were taken back and forth because their owners traveled. See, it was the American colonies.
Let me do a test. Big Chief, say something. I want to see if the judge can hear you.
Yo, y'all can hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, yeah, I wanted to pick back up to what I was going to get into because it's kind of interesting that this conversation pivot to what we're talking about, and especially when it comes to classifications, when we're talking about us Black Americans. I've been looking over the treaties over the last couple of weeks and been really looking into how it ties into our genealogical records by us going back in time and finding those ancestors, whether they was enslaved or free people of color. And what I found that there was a distinct difference between the Native Americans as we know them today and that the then addressed as American Indian, which would be the class of people that's been reclassified throughout these periods of time. As Judge has mentioned, we chose Black, we chose Afro-American, we was given Negro, we was also given color, mulatto, if you will, for all of these different classifications. They even try to give us African American. But without us actually looking into those records and tying it to the history and how these treaties that ultimately impacted our people in these areas. And when I say our people, I'm not saying it like in a Native American sense of terms or like a tribal term. I'm talking as far as just our families and where they were, whether they was having land or whether they was enslaved, whether they was the enslaver or however your history may work out, because a lot of people been doing their genealogy and they have been finding some Africans and their families. You know what I'm saying? It may be one or two that they're finding, but as a collective, we're not finding this mass number of slaves. And this is from people all over the country that's tracing their roots back to the South. You know what I'm saying? So when we look into these treaties, we're seeing the new laws that were enacted upon us. We're seeing the reclassifications that ensued after that time period, whether the people were willing or not, you know what I'm saying, or if they just wanted to stay on their land. a reclassification came with staying in that territory at that time once it was bought and exchanged hands. So we're seeing all of the countries that was involved with these different exchange of hands in these different provinces and territories, and how they were enacting these different removal acts. And basically, while we're at war, because everything that was going on when these treaties were drawn up was to end a war, which kicked off another one, because no soon as one war ended with a treaty being signed, large sums of land was grabbed up, large numbers of people were reclassified if they wasn't aware of those documentations that were being signed, because they also made an illiteracy act making it illegal for us to learn about these said treaties that we're reading into and actually translating them into today's time of how they are, what laws that they actually really reflect. Like when we was looking into the Treaty of Delaware, that's where you have the harboring and fugitive, you know what I'm saying? No trial without due process. It's different laws that we could translate in today's time of how it impacted us and when it was actually written into law, and those deals that were brokered between those people that was involved. You know what I'm saying? It's basically a receipt, because we'll see a number for the land, that for however much land, that number will be in there as well. Whoever was over it, superseding the signing of these contracts, and the people that it impacted, which we know ultimately it was our people, because if they didn't want to leave their land, they were subject to being reclassified and amalgamated into being U.S. citizens. So through this research, we're finding that the transatlantic slave trade didn't happen in a large number, but as not saying that it didn't happen, but we're saying as far as not just looking at particular states, we're looking at the territories of these said treaties that were all encompassing, because the Louisiana Purchase encompassed 848,000 acres of land spanning from the Gulf of Mexico.
Wait, what is your point of this?
It's giving you, it's a history lesson into how the laws that were enacted through these treaties, the reclassifications that fell upon Black Americans.
But that's not the topic.
That's not the topic.
It's kind of, that's what y'all were talking about.
No, that wasn't what we were talking about.
That's not what we're talking about.
Particularly when you were speaking on the reclassifications, that's what I was getting to.
We were not talking about
he just used
like
that as an example of what is going on. That's not, but that's, it was correlated with the topic.
Listen, to clarify what I said was 1960s, late mid 1960s, we young Black folks decided we wanted to be called Black. Just about most Blacks in America, except a few holdouts for Negro, wanted to be called Black. Then it switched to Afro-American within about 18 months. Then it went back to Black. We picked it. Nobody picked those words for us.
But all I'm saying, as far as what you're saying, Judge, to back what you're saying, we was also given the title of Black too on our records. It's documented. So y'all wasn't just following the trend. Y'all wasn't following a trend. You was following something that's already been given to us as a people.
It was not given to us. That's not what on my
It's on documents. It's on census papers, though.
What's on my birth certificate.
It may not be yours, but is it not on your ancestors?
Excuse me. It's not what's on my ancestors either. And that goes back to the first birth certificate I saw that I got a hold of is 160 some years old in the family. So anyway, that's son, I understand what you're saying. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but that's kind of that's historical revisionism. It's not quite the way it was.
Stay there for a second.
Yeah, but Chief, anyway, I
need to go to Miriam and then Francis, and then I want to go down to Big Dog. Go ahead, Miriam, because Miriam had her hand up for a minute. And then
Thank you. Thank you. I actually was before Big Chief, but that's quite okay. Since he hadn't spoke, I was interested to hear what he had to say. Oh my God, it's so much to unpack. It was so much said.
Yeah, and then I have to touch on Tuskegee. So listen, indeed. You, Francis, Big Dog, and then Tuskegee.
Okay. Geez, what was I? As far as what you were saying, Dana, that's you brought up a lot of good points. But yet we forget that when people are allowed over here, they don't just come over here. It is, allowed by the government. And most times, these people are given grants and funding already given a hand and a foot up over what we're already experiencing, um, because we are denied a lot of these programs. We are hit with predatory lending, redlining, and da 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 da, etc. And we are not given that fair and equal opportunity that our immigrant brothers and sisters who are coming into the country, who is given that outright, like they are a citizen. They are given that past the citizens who are already here. And 99.9 of us percent of the time is over Black people. And as far as our ancestry, I'll touch on that real quick. When Christopher Columbus came here with his Black Moors, who were the one who navigated him into the Americas, um, he wrote and said he's seen Negroid or black skinned people. So our ancestors were already here, and half of them came with chattel slavery. It was an intermixing. That's why we are a very unique, very exceptional type of people. We were already here in the land before it was known as Americas. It was Amaros. We were already here, and half our ancestry come from chattel slavery. So we are very unique. We are indigenous and both children of the indigenous slave. So on that part, but back to the immigrants, they don't come here with a knowing. They are, once they get here, they are fed the line on what to do and how to do it so that they could get the most bang for their buck, and how to utilize, like I said, programs and things that we were not given. And then you have those who are in politics who are of immigrant descent, who are making provisions and ways for them, something that our Black Boule class of politicians, unfortunately, as like what Judge was pointing to, he was very correct, who sold out our movements, who were embedded FBI agents working on behalf of white supremacy. So we had a lot of trials and tribulations, but still we rose. You know, always rise, regardless of the diversity, regardless of the restrictions, regardless of all the institutionalized racism or white supremacy. Because racism is one thing, but global systemic white supremacy is another, and they're trying to forever make us a underclass or the lower permanent class. Although we fought in every war, although we were already here on these lands, although these treaties were constructed to fool us out of more of our lands, and Black skin indigenous were already here. Then came the red, and then came the Mongoloid. So that's what you currently have, and now you have the $5, who are the next to really no Native Americans. They are Caucasian, and if they do, they have very little in their bloodline. So this has always been the game that was played to make sure that we never have a foot up, because technically, if you really look at it, we are some of the most educated and most skillful people in the world, and we have did over thousands of patents, thousands inventions that were stolen and given to others who have profit, who have this economical wealth that they are still prospering off of today. Well, my parents didn't have nothing to do with slavery. That's a lie. You know why? Because your lineage had something to do with it. And they were the ones who perpetrated this thing upon Black Americans or Indigenous Americans, or what I like to call foundational Black Americans, because we are the foundation of this country. And it does matter when we get into it. Race does matter, classism does matter. Why? Because they make it matter, because these are the games that is played by the ruling class and any other people of immigrant descent who are allowed over here. This country was not founded by immigrants, because why? We are the indigenous people who are already here. We are the foundational Black Americans who built it from the soil. The first infrastructures, the first banking system, the first agriculture, the first everything. And then that was overtaken. That's what it is to be colonized. That what it is when you are enslaved. History is stolen. History is lost. Um, just like today, they're pushing critical race theory. I mean, this is ridiculous when that is dealing with law, and the judge could tell you that, but they're trying to use it as an erasure of Black history and Black culture. And then you have everybody else who, well, it's the American culture. We are the American culture. We the one make the culture. We built the culture. And then you get into the language. No one has use of the vernacular of language the way we do. We could use it formally, informally. We could create different aspects of it. And so we influence the world like we do overall with our culture, with our inventions, with our music, with our style of speech, with our clothing, with our food, with our everything. We are exceptional people, and it's time that we respect and love ourselves and appreciate ourselves and know the greatness that we are and where we stand in this country, because white supremacy cannot work if it cannot keep us as an underclass. And everybody has bought into it. They agree to help push it. So that is what's going on. And they do have advantages that we don't. Even the damn illegal ones have advantages that we don't. And it's nothing against our brothers and sisters from the diaspora, no matter be it Africa, Haiti, or the Caribbean, Dominican, Spain, or Mexico. Nothing against you, because as the judge said, everyone has a right to make a living and a fair way to live. But should we be the ones constantly being ostracized, constantly being put down, constantly all our resources never getting to us, and the resources that we do have, because you have predatory lending, you have predatory immigrants coming into the community who they are given businesses for. They were told they couldn't come in white businesses. Very few exist in white communities and do that there, but they were given the green light to do it in our community. So you have to look at this economical, systemic racism and the spiritual, all of the above, including over 1,000 massacres, race massacres have been committed against us as foundational Black Americans. And I just wanted that to be known. I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for waiting, Miriam. All right, I want to go to Francis.
Let me add something real quick. My Choctaw grandmother always used to joke around the rest of the family. She said, "You colored are always mad about something. You never do anything about it." My people, when we got mad at somebody, we took a scalp and nailed it to the lodge pole, and we smiled inwardly. Now, the other thing is, I'm Choctaw, registered, and all that other good stuff, and we are not white. Technically, we are more Asian than anything else. In fact, we came across from Siberia, from Asia. Like I said, everybody's an immigrant, but we're not white.
Right.
And we'd also have a contest about who got here first.
Well, and this is the thing about
that's the thing.
Yeah, let me just say this because you're right. There were 5 stages of migration that migrated to this area of the world that we call North America. And there are 5 different groups from different locations. Siberia, which you just said, Judge, is one of them. So if you cannot name those 5 groups of people that migrated over here in different periods of time, I'm not going down that rabbit hole today with the indigenous history, because you have to understand, people did come walk their ass over here because you was able to walk over to this part of the world. What year, what group you were, go do that research. But right. All right. So this is the thing. I want to go to Big Dog, and then we're going to get into Tuskegee, because that's not going to take long. And then I'm going to go to Last MF and AMK. All right, so Big Dog, you can unmute. Then we got to get into Tuskegee, because that's some very good information that I want the judge to share about becoming a pilot. But go ahead, Big Dog.
Peace to everyone. Can everyone hear me?
No, wait. I thought it was me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it's Transis, then Big Dog. Sorry, because I came in earlier, Transis, and you probably didn't hear me. But go ahead, Transis, then Big Dog. Go ahead.
Okay, yes, ma'am. I first want to say thank you for letting me talk in your space, and whatchamacallit, like, firstly, and hi to everybody, but I just want to like clarify that, and I'm not sure if people know, like, sometimes you learn something new every day, so I don't want to come off like mean or anything like that, but like the more correct term to use towards the people is like because especially like because I work with different people and talk to different people, but it's actually supposed to be undocumented immigrants, not illegal, because that comes off at times comes off like dehumanizing and degrading, kinda like, even though some people might not know about it, and that's why I'm not coming for anybody or trying to be mean to anybody. But yeah, and then because I was also protesting outside an ICE facility because to like raise awareness of like our detained brothers and sisters in the facility, and you know the amount of inhumanity those people have been through, and it's just very sad. And yeah, and even some women, even like immigrant women in the facilities, get sexually assaulted by guards and everything like that. It's just like not okay. And but yeah, and the immigration system is very broken actually. And but enough about that whole situation. But also, I heard this person, I think they've gone now, saying garbage, like referring to transgenderism and everything like that. But also as a trans person myself, I think that especially like much older people like Sir Judge Joe Brown, he's probably much older, so he probably would not understand certain issues that especially younger people go through probably. And like it's like especially our generation, like those of us who were born in the 90s and Gen Zs, we tend to be a bit more slightly more liberal than our elders and stuff like that. So and yeah, it's just like I enjoyed myself. I tried last year, and yeah, just to see but also like most kids know that they are trans from the age of like probably 6 or 5 or something like that, because I knew like since I was like 5 possibly. And but because I even have a picture of me wearing my mom's makeup and everything. But
yeah, I
also,
disagree with you on that, trans. Most kids do not know they are trans. They don't even know the term trans. They may feel different, and that's not even in most kids.
Okay. Maybe I used the
So
wrong
I think that's misleading that organization put out there. They don't know.
Okay, but I guess let me put it that way. I knew I felt different, but let me if that's better. But whatchamacallit, I was trying to say, yeah, but honestly, I don't condone like kids being allowed at like drag shows and all that stuff. I feel like that's adult entertainment. The same way I wouldn't whatchamacallit, I wouldn't think it's okay for even just regular young boys to be at strip clubs as well, like even if it's just regular female strippers. But yeah, and I just want to say that, and kids should be allowed to have gender affirming care, like of course not at an early age, but probably like maybe around 14, 13, because yeah, I just want to say that. And yeah, and I feel like sometimes the misinformation that some people view is very
Wait, Judge, if you're trying to say something, we can't hear you.
No, that's me. That's me trying to say something. Are we sitting up here talking about child grooming?
No,
That's what it sounds like.
Can you guys mute up, because it's her turn to speak. Just mute up. I am going to come to everybody, but I want to, Judge, can you say something? I want to make sure that we can hear you.
Okay, I can say
okay. Okay, thank you.
And whatchamacallit, and yeah, just let kids be themselves. And yeah, I feel like the misinformation brought in by people sometimes is very damaging and dangerous. And the person who said, oh, grooming is okay, and I just want to say something. And I don't support pedophilia regardless of whether it's LGBT. I'm fully aware that there's sectors within our community which does do pedophilia, which I don't support. But it's misinformation. It's kind of like weird, because to say pedophilia is synonymous with LGBT, because personally I have plenty of female friends, regular girls, who were actually raped and molested by a man, like an uncle or something. So please don't attack my community and say it's us who's doing it to the kids.
It's not pedophilia.
What?
Wait, please, everybody mute up. Everybody, are you finished?
Yes, ma'am. I think I'm done. And yeah.
All right, thank you. I want to go to Big Dog, and then we're going to get into Tuskegee, and then I'm going to go to last AMK Choke, and somebody else requesting. So go ahead, Big Dog.
Peace. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, I just want to make sure because everybody was having issues with this. To the judge, you and I have spoken in the past on Twitter. You've even retweeted some things I said. So thank you for doing that. There's a couple of
Hey,
things.
no problem.
I'm a 23-year combat veteran, spent 10 years in combat. From 1990 to 2010 is when I officially retired. I am part Native American, Taino tribe, Arawak Nation, which also is in Florida and southern Georgia when Ponce de Leon and DeSoto showed up. So as of a family heritage, yes, I do come from the same background that Judge comes back, his background is from. Also having African descent from the Caribbean also. There was a couple of things I wanted to bring up. Something I didn't hear from people talking or making comments. One, when it came to the second stanza, you have to use the common use language of that time. You cannot use the language of we know of today. That falls down with the Second Amendment. Also, when it states well-regulated, does not mean regulation. It means in working order for the use of that time. Hireling during that time meant those who do menial labor. Slave at that time meant the conscripts, those who were drafted in. Those were the words that were used at that time. You have to look at the common usage, not the definition, but how the words were used in common usage. So I'll leave that at that part. The other part that I wanted to bring up had to deal with those where we talked about educating our kids and the problems with our kids. No one has brought up why are these kids nowadays having such psychological disorders? Where is this coming from? Because as parents, with what's going on today, we have failed. We failed this generation as parents. Nobody has brought this up. Everywhere we turn around, some kid has a mental health issue. Where is this coming from? We have to find that problem, resolve that problem, or it's going to get a lot worse. So that's all I wanted to say, y'all.
Thank you so much. All right.